Welcome to the Living United in Central Illinois podcast. I'm Jared Brown, the Director of Resource Development at United Way of Central Illinois, and thank you for joining us for Living United, a monthly podcast sharing both the stories of programs and people and organizations creating change in our community, along with how you can get involved. Because after all, we are all better when working together. So on today's podcast, we're going to share briefly our plans for future podcasts, and then I'm going to be joined by some of my colleagues here at United Way in order to give our listeners a chance to meet our small but mighty staff. But before we begin, I want to remind you that you can listen to and subscribe to our audio podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. In addition, you can subscribe to the videocast of Living United in Central Illinois on our YouTube channel. And if you're having trouble searching for our episodes, especially with Living United in Central Illinois being new, just visit our website at springfieldunitedway.org, where we'll be posting links to the most up-to-date episodes. So each episode of Living United offers a new opportunity to learn more about United Way's work in our community, the issues facing local families, and it gives you, as a listener, a chance to learn more about our nonprofit community, the generosity of local companies, and the people or volunteers that are making a real difference. Our United Way hosts will be joined by various guests from throughout the community, and we have some exciting plans for upcoming episodes, including conversations with our community partners and their funded programs. So we hope you'll check back regularly for up-to-date episodes, and if you ever have any suggestions, give one of our staff a call or send us an email at feedback@uwcil.org. So for the past year, we've hosted United We Learn, which has been a bi-weekly live learning session that we utilized as a way to stay engaged with our donors, our volunteers, and our advocates, while so many people were working at home. So as we thought about how we wanted to kick off our podcast series, it occurred to us that over the course of the past 18 months, like many organizations, we've had some staff changes. We've seen a couple of our employees take on new challenges as they grow in their careers, and we saw our long-term finance associate, Debbie Davis, retire. So we thought it would be great if we gave our listeners the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the voices they'll be hearing in the months ahead and the people that our volunteers work with throughout the year. So I've invited the members of our staff to share a little bit more about their role with United Way and a little bit more about themselves. So joining me now is Ashley Earls, who joined our team a couple months ago, and I think I first met Ashley 6 or 7 years ago when she worked with one of our partners, Community Childcare Connection. And we could not be more excited to have her as part of the United Way family. But Ashley, why don't you tell me a little bit more about your background and as a new employee, what attracted you to United Way?
Yeah, definitely. So it was just a true honor to be able to have this opportunity to join the team. My biggest thing is I'm very passionate about helping other people. My why kind of in life is if I can help one person, connect them to one thing that can better their day, that's just remarkable to me. And then to be a part of an entity, another nonprofit, that does that by looking at all different nonprofits to ensure that everybody has basic needs, education, financial stability, and health, it's just remarkable. And I'm just so honored to be able to be here, to be that small voice that connects our donors to those that we help. And yeah, just a true blessing, and just so excited to be here and be with people that I have worked with before. And yeah, it's fun. It's already been fun.
So as you could tell from Ashley's response, you could probably already guess what her role is here at United Way. But Ashley, why don't you let us know, what do you do here at United Way? What's your role? What do you view as being most important about that role?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm the new marketing and communication specialist here at United Way. Main role is telling our story, making sure that our donors are aware of where their funds are going, making sure that our partners are aware of, hey, this is what your other partners in the community are doing, and just connecting all those dots to those that are being served directly through our amazing partners, whether it's funded or not funded partners. And just to be able to take those stories and that from all these amazing people within our community, that's what I love. It's just a passion of mine to be able to hear those stories, to be able to see the love and the kindness that is going on in our community. I love that. I love that.
Wow. So speaking of passion, a little bit about you on the personal side. What are your passions in life? What drives you? What's the one thing you could change if you could do so today?
Oh man, so it kind of ties in with 211. So when I was working for another nonprofit, my passion was to make sure that everyone in our community knew what was there for them, to help them. And to be here, and especially in a time when we're really working towards 211 to be throughout of state of Illinois, I mean, that's remarkable. So that's what I would love, is that no matter who you are, where you are at in your life, that you would have someone or something that you could be like, okay, this is where I can go. This individual can provide me everything that I need and get me to where I can be self-sufficient. So just is truly amazing the work that is continued to happen even when I stepped out of direct services, and then to kind of step back in, and that's pretty amazing and very exciting for me to see.
That's great. So what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Oh yes, outside of work. So I do have a little bit of a life. Live on a family farm with my husband and 2 girls. We have goats and cattle and chickens. And my daughter's really big into softball right now, and that's taken up a lot of our time, and we love it. And we're a part of the team and coach. And then in addition to, we spearhead the league that goes on in our small community. And so that's been a lot of fun. And of course, because we have livestock, we show goats and we sell our beef cattle. And so that's our life is very busy, but very good and very blessed. So yeah.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So while Ashley's new to our team at United Way, we have one member of our team who I've worked with on a daily basis for the past couple of years. And many of our campaign volunteers have had the pleasure of working with. So it's really my pleasure to introduce Drew Codridge, who's going to join us here for a short while today. So Drew, tell me, what's your role at United Way, and what do you sort of view as being the most important thing about your job at United Way?
Sure. I'm a resource development associate, so I work a lot with employee campaign coordinators, making sure they have everything that they need supplies-wise for their campaign. I also deal a lot with like mailing, like solicitations and thank you letters and those kind of things. So I would say kind of that kind of paper communication with donors and potential donors, I think, is really important. And most important role, I don't know, I think I fill a lot of the kind of the gaps. Like if there's things that other people need done, I think I tend to be the one to pick up those little pieces, and I think that's important for an organization.
So you've been with United Way for a little more than 2 years, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you end up at United Way, or what attracted you to United Way?
Sure. So I'm from Springfield, lived here all my life, and I went to UIS for school, well, Lincoln Land and UIS. And I've known Mitch, went to school with Mitch for, well, basically our whole like young life. And I think Mitch worked here before I did, so he kind of introduced me to United Way.
All right. So, at United Way, we're the type of organization that really tries to embrace people's differences and understand that people have different interests and different passions. but also everyone is different in the standing that some people aren't as comfortable as others with sharing information or sharing their personal lives. I know I'm one of those individuals, but tell me, Drew, what's one thing that you enjoy doing outside of work that some of our listeners may not know about?
Boy, I really enjoy reading books. Really have a good time. That was like what I went to school for was English, so I have like a little library at home, and especially during the pandemic, that was a big part of my free time was books, because
there wasn't much else.
There wasn't much else to do.
Yes, I think we are all aware of that. We are certainly glad to have you as part of the team, and thank you for taking a few minutes just to share a little bit about yourself today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So as a United Way, we've really been fortunate to have some longevity in our staff. For myself, I've been with United Way for a little more than 8 years, but not as long as what one of our team members has, and that is our Director of Community Impact. And so really it's my pleasure to have Katrina Hayes join us here this afternoon or today to talk a little bit about her role with United Way. And so tell me, Katrina, obviously I know you well from our time working together, but tell us a little bit more about your background and what really attracted you to United Way in the first place.
Yeah, so I feel like I've always been drawn to service. So growing up, I loved volunteering at that time with my church. I was a Girl Scout, and when I found myself in college, I couldn't get enough. So I was in every club possible. People recruited me because I was a doer, not surprising to anyone who knows me. And then I had an internship because I also wanted every type of experience you could have imagined in order to prepare myself for the real world. And so I was working full-time and going to school full-time because I got hired on through my internship with the Girl Scouts of Central Illinois. And that brought me over to Springfield because the 4 counties that I covered were headquartered out of Springfield. And as I got to know this community even more, I always heard about United Way. I knew they were involved in so many things. And as I continued to learn and grow as a person, I realized that I have so many interests that just can't be siloed. And as I was looking for opportunities for growth, one of my friends reached out because she had just received a grant from United Way and got to learn more about United Way and said, "Hey, Katrina, I think you should apply. I think it'd be a good fit." And here we are.
That is awesome. And so you could tell, anytime that you have a conversation with Katrina, you can see her passions sort of come out. So everyone has different passions. What's your passion? And let me just throw this out there. If there was one thing that you could change, what would it be?
I wish if I could change one thing, I wish that problems were easy to solve. Because in this work, the more we do, the bigger the problems and the complexities get. So when we look at just education, we know that it's not just education. It's the infant and maternal health. It's the climate and the culture that mother is in. It's the ACEs she experienced as a child. It's everything. It's then the food and the water quality. It's everything coming into this life. And that's what I wish I could change, is to make the problems in our community that people, our dear neighbors, face, to make them more simple so we could really effectively just flip a switch. But that's just not how the world is.
So we talk about, and you have such a passion for volunteering and such a passion for solving problems which exist in our community, but tell us a little bit about you. What do you like doing outside of work?
Oh gosh, I love everything. And this is, again, no surprise to anyone. I'm kind of a Jackie of all trades. I love to do the yard work at our house. I love to organize things despite what my office looks like. If anyone ever comes into the United Way office, my house is the exact opposite. I love to bake. I am an amateur cookie artist, if you will. And I recently had a little boy, and so we just enjoy getting to see him learn and grow. And I think that's one of the things that I've really become to even come to a deeper appreciation for, is just how much there is to do in Springfield. You know, we were really limited with COVID in the first year of his life, and now that we're able to start getting out, we are just finding so many things to do, from the 11 Amp series to the parks. We have incredible playgrounds. There's going to be, you know, the downtown open streets. There's just so many things that you can constantly be doing here. And I've really loved that, because it also exposes Nigel to just a variety of different things that he could become interested in.
Right. And those experiences will certainly formulate where he heads to in life. So thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us, or with our listeners today. So, you know, naturally part of our reason for featuring our staff in our podcast is because over the last 15, 18 months, there's obviously been quite a few changes, and we have not been able to meet with a lot of our volunteers during that time. And so one of the changes here at United Way is we had our long-term finance associate, Deborah Davis, who retired this past February. And so we do have a new finance person here at United Way, and that's Carla Hart, who's going to join me right now. And so, Carla, since you are newer to United Way, tell us a little bit about your background. What is it that led you to United Way?
Well, I was born and raised in Springfield, in the Springfield area. Graduated from Southeast High School, have always been in the accounting field. Worked for a large accounting firm for 26 years. Worked from home for 8 years and wanted to get back out into the working world with real people. So just one day, Kurt at Express Personnel called and asked me what I thought about the United Way. And I thought, well, that'd be a great opportunity. So I interviewed, and here I am.
Absolutely. And you actually had a little familiarity with United Way, because years ago you worked for a company that used to run a campaign in town. Is that who did you used to work for?
I worked for Federated Funeral Directors, and the United Way campaign was always a big deal at Federated. We started at the 1st of July, and we had just all kinds of incentives to give. So
and a little bit of fun in the workplace.
And it was fun. It was fun.
So real quick before I let you go, your role at United Way. So what exactly do you do here at United Way? That way everyone knows who to turn to.
Well, I'm the accounting specialist here at the United Way. I handle all of the accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll for the employees here. So if you have any financial questions whatsoever, that's what you would call me for.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Carla.
Thank you.
All right. So one of the things that I've always found most interesting is just the different types of people that we meet in our time with United Way, and the different companies we work with and different organizations. So one of the things that I've always found interesting is that Springfield is sort of that small or little big town. Mm-hmm. You know, it has that small town atmosphere within our entire community, and you tend to have a feeling like everyone knows everyone. Mm-hmm. And so I used to work with out at Hope, where I was 9 years ago, prior to being with United Way. I used to work with, one of the people I worked with closely was a young lady named Julie Baker. Mm-hmm. Who ran all of our special events out there.
I've heard of her,
so
yes.
It was interesting that a few years later that we got someone who applied for a position at United Way, whose name just happened to be Mitch Baker. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at his resume, and all of a sudden it hit me like a brick wall that I knew this individual because I used to work with his mom. So mm-hmm. it really is my pleasure to introduce our community impact manager, who is Mitch Baker. And Mitch, how long have you been with United Way now?
A little over 4.5 years.
Awesome. And you've actually served a couple different roles with United Way. So what role did you start out doing? What role are you doing today?
Yeah, so I started as the Resource Development Associate, the position that Drew is in now. And when this position was created, and I had already been doing Day of Action, so it was a really easy transition over to Community Impact.
So in your role as Community Impact Manager, what do you do?
So my title is Community Impact Manager, and I think the most important thing that we do sort of on the community impact side is sort of working with our volunteers and our community partners to support our local programs, drive volunteerism, and just improve our community.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your background and what attracted you to United Way when you came to work for us.
Yeah, so I grew up in Rochester and was a volunteer for Compass throughout high school. And then, went off to college at U of I. And while I was out there, I heard, oh, hey, Compass got funding through United Way. And that was my first introduction to United Way. And the more I dug in, the more I saw how United Way sort of touched our community really everywhere, from things like our 211 helpline to Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, in addition to that program funding work that everyone already knows about. So I was really happy to get to work here.
Awesome. So outside of work, how do you spend your time? What drives Mitch Baker to be Mitch Baker?
Oh gosh. So I play guitar in an indie rock band called Looming, and we've been on a bunch of tours, not so many lately, but I go to shows a whole bunch, so that's really fun. I love local music, but if I'm not at a show, I'm probably watching a movie, or if the weather holds up, riding my bike.
Awesome. And when you say not so many lately, are you guys getting back to it anytime soon?
We do have a show announced. Yeah, we're playing Down Home, but this is not a plug.
That's all right. A little shameless plug from our employees is okay here, especially for an event that we hope goes over well inside the community. So thank you so much for your time today. You do an absolutely great job here.
Oh, thanks, Jared.
All right. So joining us now is our newest team member, Sarah Trine, and I got your name right, so that is always a bonus, and probably the first time since you started here that I did. But you're our Office and Finance Associate here at United Way. So let me say welcome to the team.
Thank you.
And let me just ask you, how long have you been with United Way now?
It's been about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow, I hope the first 2 weeks has gone very well.
Yep.
So obviously you're new to our team. So let me ask you what attracted you to United Way? Tell us a little bit about your background.
My background is in education. I completed my bachelor's in education and then went into the teaching field. I did that for almost over 10 years. I worked for the State Journal Register as well, and in that program I did do some fundraising for our newspapers and education program, so I have a background in those kind of things. But I was also looking for a place where I knew I would make an impact in the local community, just as I was doing with teaching and with newspapers and education. So that's what really attracted me to United Way, because I knew that they really focus on these local charities and making sure the impact is here locally and staying with the most needed.
That's great. So what we found, and this is really every workplace, people have very different passions. Everybody is different. It's one thing that we embrace. And so let me ask, what is your passion? What makes Sarah Trine Sarah Trine?
Education, but more specifically literacy. After I received my bachelor's degree, I went and got my master's degree in literacy. I was a reading specialist for some years in the education field, and so I can see just how many kids have struggled with it and how it affects every other aspect of their education and even their lives, outside of school, to have those difficulties with literacy. So I really feel a passion for
getting that word out there and the research that needs to be done to help those kids really thrive through literacy.
That's great. So if you could change, and you probably just answered this, but if you could change one thing, what could you change? What would you change?
Oh, goodness.
I know it's a hard question.
That is a hard question. Yeah, for sure, within the lines of literacy, I think there is a lot of focus on it in schools, but I think in the homes, with our families, with our parents, I think finding a way to bridge that gap between school and home with the literacy component, I think is huge to really get our kids to be able to thrive in education, and also beyond.
Awesome. So what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Going along with that literacy theme, I love to read. So when I have time, I pick up a book and I'm reading, but being with my kids and my husband and watching my boys play baseball now that it's summertime, those are some of my favorite things.
That is great. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And welcome to the team.
Thank
do you have something you'd like to?
I have a couple questions for you, actually, before we go. So if you would.
Well, I'm the host,
mind.
so no one was actually supposed to ask me any questions.
So how long have you been with United Way?
Sure. So I have been with United Way a little more than 8 years. We sort of laugh here a little bit. Katrina's been here about 3 months longer than me. So we always tease each other, but I actually came to United Way. It was a friend who approached me, the former director of communications here. Her and her husband were moving back to the Chicago area where they were from, and she called me up one day and said, you would be a great fit for this job. And she had nothing but nice words to say, and of course I was already familiar with United Way. Wasn't looking for a job at the time, but ended up here, and 8 years later, I've moved from our Director of Communications position to our Director of Resource Development.
Wonderful. And as our Director of Resource Development, what exactly do you do?
So, a little bit of everything, but primarily our fundraising. My job is to work with our donors, to reach out to our donors, but also work with our companies. We have a very unique fundraising model, a little different than any other nonprofit out there in the standpoint that we not only have to work with individual donors, but we also work with companies. So we try to help them with their work in the community. And really, our job here is very simple. We connect people to services in our community, and we connect people to the organizations in our community that they are able to help out. And so my job is predominantly fundraising and helping to make those connections between donors and local organizations.
Wonderful. And what do you enjoy outside of work?
Well, I as well have children. My children are a little bit older than yours, so we are at a point in our lives where our daughter's in college, our son is in high school. With them being a little bit older, it is almost as if myself and my wife have gone back to our 20s.
Yes.
That's
a good time.
We are learning how to operate with children that are not always with us, and it is amazing when you see the amount of time that you have available. So we're back to going out with friends, but because we do have our daughter who has moved out of our house because she's at school now, we felt the need to go ahead and get a puppy that way. We were replacing our family member there. So I have my wife. We've been married for over 20 years. As I mentioned, we have 2 children, 2 dogs. And right now, we're just enjoying life.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So last but certainly not least today, I'm joined by John Kelker, who is our president here at United Way. And while I know many of our listeners have had the opportunity to meet John over the years, this is a great opportunity to really get to know more about what drives him and his interests and his passions. So John, tell our listeners, I should say, a little bit more about your background as as an employee of United Way, and what really attracted you to United Way?
Okay, sure. I grew up outside of Chicago and moved to Central Illinois to go to McMurray College over in Jacksonville, where I played soccer. I then had the opportunity to be the executive director of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Jacksonville before coming to Springfield. And it's always been easy for me. I've likened it to when I was with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I felt like I was a classroom teacher, and I cared deeply about the children in that program. Coming to United Way, I felt more like a principal, and now I had to care about all the classrooms. So now I care deeply about the children, the families, and the agencies that serve so many clients here in the community.
That's awesome. And how long have you been at United Way?
I have been here since 1996.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about your role. What do you view as being the most important part of your role?
If I had to sum it up quickly, I think I'm responsible for bringing together an outstanding staff. No one professional can do the things that United Way does. I think it's important that I'm forward thinking and trying to drive this United Way to be the most progressive and most effective local United Way possible. And then it's critical to be a good steward of the gifts from this community.
Wow. So 25 years. It's a long time to spend with one organization, which is absolutely incredible. What do you like the most about working for United Way?
To anyone I've spoken to about United Way, for me, it's what's not to like. We get to work with wonderful volunteers. I associate and work with the most caring community companies and their leaders. And anyone, whether you're a donor or an employee or a volunteer of United Way, you're making a real difference, impacting the social service sector of our community and all the clients they're serving.
Sure. And when we talk about clients that our social services sector works with, if you could change one thing, what would you change?
I care passionately about helping other people, and if there was just one thing I could change, it would get people to be thinking more about what they can do, changing their attitudes and their actions about volunteering, about philanthropy, and helping people they don't even know. That's what United Way does, and that's what we as human beings should do.
All right. So over the years, I've obviously gotten to know you, and a lot of our listeners know you well, and they probably already know the answer to this question, but what do you like to do outside of work?
Work-life balance is important, but the people who know me, if I'm not working, you'll probably find me on the golf course with my friends, or working in my yard, or I'm always planning our next vacation. Those are things that keep my mind going, and it's that work-life balance.
So just to let you know, in the Cubs-Cardinals battle, John is on my side, so another Cubs fan. I will say, however, on the NFL side of things, somehow we ended up with a Cleveland Browns fan here. So thank you very much for sharing with us for a few minutes today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So thank you again for joining us for this episode of Living United in Central Illinois. As always, please be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast from. Or be sure to check out the United Way of Central Illinois YouTube channel for the latest videocast of United Way. To learn more about how you can get involved, visit our website at www.springfieldunitedway.org. So once again, I'm Jared Brown, the Director of Resource Development at United Way, and on behalf of our staff, have a great week, and remember that great things happen when we live united.